Barbara Walters.
From the moment we're born, our gender identity is no secret. We're either a boy or a girl. Gender organizes our world into pink or blue. As we grow up, most of us naturally fit into our gender roles. Girls wear dresses and play with dolls. For boys, it's pants and trucks. But for some children, what's between their legs doesn't match what's between their ears. They insist they were born into the wrong body. This 17-year-old boy is biologically a girl.
It seemed nature had played a cruel joke on me. Of all the horrible things that could have happened to me, why this one?
This 10-year-old boy lives as a girl. You know the word transgender. What does it mean?
A gender that wants to be the other one.
Is that you?
Yes.
And yes, this 6-year-old girl was born a boy.
We'll say things like, God made you special, because there aren't very many little girls out there that have a penis.
They are transgender children, diagnosed with gender identity disorder. Their parents insist this is not a phase.
A phase is called a phase because it is just that. It ends. And this is not ending. This is just getting stronger.
Did he tell you it was
My child is a boy. It's not my fault that he was born transgender, and it's not his fault.
I've never known someone as brave as this child to face the world every day wondering who knows her secret and who doesn't.
Most transgender children still live in the shadows, hiding from a world that sees them as freaks of nature. Rejected by their families, many grow up hating their bodies, falling victim to high rates of depression, drug abuse, violence, and suicide. Today, hundreds of families who have found each other over the internet are taking a dramatically different course. They are allowing their children to live in the gender they identify with in order to save them from a future of heartache and pain. Good evening. I'm Barbara Walters. Tonight we ask you to open your hearts and your minds as we bring you the extraordinary and very intimate struggle of 3 American families. Each has a child who feels trapped in the wrong body. The parents' decision to go public with their children came after much private soul-searching and months of discussions with us and with professionals who weighed the effect on the children. But these are courageous and loving parents who want nothing more than to see their children happy and accepted for who they are. This program contains occasional explicit language and a few details which some parents may not consider appropriate for young children. But we think most of you will be moved, perhaps, to greater understanding.
I think we're a very normal family.
On the surface, Scott and Renee Jennings and their 4 children are a typical American family. They could be your neighbors. Their youngest, we'll call her Jazz, is a 6-year-old who has been living with a secret until now. Your child was born a boy, and now you call him a girl. Yes?
Yes.
Jazz is transgender and one of the youngest documented cases of an early transition from male to female.
This baby came out and basically said, this is who I am, I'm a girl.
I miss you.
From the moment he could speak, Jazz made it clear he wanted to wear a dress.
Say hello.
At only 15 months, he would unsnap his onesies to make it look like a dress. If you said to Jazz, "Good boy," what would the reaction be?
Always. No, Mommy, good girl.
What did you think, Scott?
I think initially I was in a bit of denial.
What was the first time that you had any inkling that this little boy, Jazz, was different?
The day she came up to me, and I'll never forget it, Barbara, she said, Mommy, when's the good fairy going to come with her magic wand and change, my genitalia?
How old was Jazz then?
2.
At 2, Jazz came to you and said, when is a good fairy going to, I guess, take off my penis?
Right, and make it into a vagina. Yes.
What did you feel?
Just numb, frozen.
They wanted to believe it would pass. After all, even their rowdy twin boys had painted their nails growing up. But Jazz kept gravitating to girl things, insisting that his penis was a mistake. When Renee opened this manual, used by mental health experts, she was shocked. Under gender identity disorder, Jazz met all 4 criteria for a diagnosis, including fantasizing about being the opposite sex.
Here I am,
He was only 3, and even their pediatrician told them they had a serious problem.
She said, yes, I believe your child has gender identity disorder, and I recommend you go to a professional. My mouth opened up, and you literally had to scrape me off the floor.
You are certain, doctor, that Jazz is a girl?
I can't say biologically, chromosomally, hormonally, but yes, very clearly, gender identity, female.
To confirm the diagnosis, the Jennings brought Jazz to Dr. Marilyn Volker, a therapist who specializes in sex and gender issues. How did you know that she was a transgendered child?
When we began to talk, and I used, whoops, the pronoun he, I was corrected. I'm a girl. I'm she.
Then Dr. Volker brought out anatomically correct male and female dolls.
I ask, and which are you like? Which is like your body? Jazz looks, and she says, this is me now. This is what I want.
No one knows why children like Jazz are transgender. There are only theories. Some scientists suggest that a hormone imbalance in their mother's womb gives these children's brains the wrong gender imprint. After the diagnosis, the Jennings explained the situation to their other children. In their home, they came to accept Jazz as a girl. There, he could wear a dress or dance as a ballerina. But in public, they kept his look more ambiguous or gender neutral, especially at preschool.
But this child wouldn't give up, was not happy until she could express herself indoors and outdoors.
Every day became a struggle. The preschool allowed Jazz to put on a pretty top, but he had to wear pants. Officially, Jazz remained a boy.
Hi, cutie. You gonna show me how you dance?
When Jazz was 4 and a half, there was a dance recital. It was a disaster.
Disaster. She wasn't allowed to wear a tutu like the rest of the girls. And she just kind of stood there and snapped her finger and, did tapping thing with the toe and just looked so sad. It was heartbreaking to watch, really heartbreaking.
The dance recital was a turning point. The Jennings then made the most difficult decision of their lives to let their son become their daughter.
Happy birthday!
On his 5th birthday, Jazz wore a one-piece bathing suit. He was now she, and an innocent pool party became a coming out.
That was the first time in front of everybody. She, along with our consent, announced to the world that she was a girl.
Did Jazz's friends think she was a boy or a girl?
They referred to her as a boy, but kids are very accepting at that age. They believe what you tell them. She's a boy, but she wants to be a girl, so we let her wear a bathing suit.
And the bathing suit did not show a bulge?
Yeah, it did.
But that didn't matter?
Well, all the kids knew she was a biological boy.
But the Jennings soon found that while they accepted Jazz as a girl, others questioned their decision.
Who loves you?
You do.
I always say that I'm in the front line. Jazz is protected because she's not getting the slack, because I'm putting out the fires before they burn her.
Is that why you're doing this interview? So that people will understand?
I want to pave the way for a better life for her and any trans kids. They didn't ask to be born this way.
When we come back, you will hear from 6-year-old Jazz, who has her own touching way of expressing her feelings.
I can be whatever I want to be.
"2020 continues with Barbara Walters.
Jazz Jennings keeps telling her parents that she's a girl, even though biologically she's a boy. She's transgender and one of the youngest documented cases of a child openly transitioning from one gender to another.
Renee and I are in 100% agreement as to how we should raise Jazz. We don't encourage, we support, and we just keep listening to what she tells us.
This child will come into my bedroom in the middle of the night. Mommy, I had a bad dream that I had a beard and a mustache like Daddy, and I don't ever want to have a beard or a mustache. And I said, honey, don't you worry. Mommy will make sure that you'll never have a beard or a mustache.
How does a 5-year-old biological boy begin living full-time as a girl? For Jazz, it meant growing her hair out, piercing her ears, and wearing dresses everywhere.
How do you feel about going to kindergarten today?
Even to kindergarten.
We felt that it would be a good time for her to come out of the closet because she's starting a new school, doesn't know anybody, and this is a perfect opportunity for her to switch the pronoun.
At school, Jazz is registered as a boy. Her teachers know she's biologically male, but most of her classmates don't. She's lucky because there's a unisex bathroom and in sports, unisex teams. But even play dates are an issue.
Do you know how to play this game?
Can Jazz have sleepovers at other friends' houses?
I don't want to send Jazz over to anybody's house unless they know the truth. Nor will I let a child walk into our house and play with Jazz unless it's been explained to them.
Do you worry about her being taunted, teased, maybe even physically hurt?
Every day I'm afraid that I might get a call that something happened.
Look at you.
What we've tried to do is give her as much self-esteem as we can. We have older brothers and an older sister that are always looking out for her.
Hi. Can I come in your house?
Yes.
You want to show me in?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. People may wonder now why you are allowing Jazz to be seen on television.
I don't feel like you could capture the true essence of a child like Jazz until you see her in her environment doing things that she would normally do. It makes it much more believable.
Oh, how pretty! Jazz's bedroom is filled with girly things, dresses, dolls, and especially mermaids. That's a mermaid, right?
Right.
Here's another, lots of mermaids.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think Jazz was so attracted to mermaids?
All of the male to female, younger transgender children are obsessed with mermaids. And I believe it's because of the ambiguous genitalia. There's nothing below the waist but a tail. And how appealing is that for somebody who doesn't like what's down there?
Why do you like mermaids?
Because they're different than us.
I see. How are they different?
Because they have tails.
So they're one thing on the top and something else on the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Shall we sit down and talk a little bit?
Okay.
Your mommy says you're special. And you are very special. Very pretty. Do you think you're special?
Yeah.
If people say to you, are you a boy or a girl? What do you say?
A girl.
Mm-hmm. I hear that you sing. Do you sing?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear you sing. Do you feel comfortable enough yet to sing to me? Or not quite yet?
Not quite yet.
Is there anything else in the room you want to show me?
That picture.
Shall I go get it? Okay. Tell me about this picture. Why is the little girl crying?
Because she wants to wear the dress to school.
And Mommy won't let her.
Yeah.
But now, does Mommy let the little girl wear a dress?
Mm-hmm.
Is the little girl you? Had you not done this, what do you think she would have been?
Very depressed. I think it would be a daily battle, and she would probably just be suffering. And what child should have to suffer?
Can I go inside?
By any measure, the Jennings home seems a happy place. Kids play. Kids fight. For now, Jazz lives safely inside a bubble, but the enormity of their child's situation is not lost on her parents. How do you respond to people who look at Jazz and say, this is a little boy living as a little girl. How could you do this to your child?
I didn't do this to my child. This is the way my child was born. I'm not forcing anybody against their will to do anything. We check in with her all the time. I tell her, I say, Jazz, if you ever feel like you want to dress like a boy again, cut your hair, you just let me know. She goes, Mommy, why would I want to do that?
Just look how cute you were. Mommy loves you.
Do you mourn the loss of a son?
I mourn the loss of the idea of my son.
I could just look at you all day. You're so cute.
But I do miss the boy.
You miss the boy. The baby boy you had.
I had to pack up all of her clothes, her boy clothes. I see the pictures and the video. That child's gone. But there's a wonderful person now that's with us. Kiss, kiss. She always knows she's loved, always. And I tell her all the time, you know how much Mommy loves you. I just want you to be happy. It's just important for her to know that she has that, and I'm going to be there for her always. Just, Mommy, can I always live with you? I said, absolutely. And that's a security blanket for her to know that she has us, no matter what.
Finally, Jazz felt comfortable enough to sing me a song. Whatever critics may say, if you think this child at age 6 doesn't realize what she may have to go through, just listen.
In my own little corner, in my own little chair, I can be whatever I want to be. On the wings of my fancy, I could fly anywhere, and the world will open their arms to me. I don't know the rest.
Oh, but that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh, that's beautiful. For some transgender children, life is far from a song. When we come back, Riley's story, a troubled 10-year-old who was born a boy and lives as a girl.
He said, Mom, I'm so mad at God. And I said, you are? Why? He said, because God made a mistake. He made me a boy, and I'm not a boy, I'm a girl, Mom.
Next.
"2020 continues. Once again, Barbara Walters.
This is the marinara. This is the meatless. Now I'm gonna get everything heated up.
It's Christmas Day in the home of Stephanie and Neil Grant. Their twin daughters, Allie and Riley, have already opened their presents, like this one that allows you to morph a digital body into anything you want. For Riley, a 10-year-old transgender female who is biologically a boy, the game must be bittersweet. If only life was so easy, she could punch a button and turn into a girl. If you were to meet someone who didn't know you, and they said to you, Riley, are you a boy or a girl, what would you say?
A girl.
And you really feel that way, don't you? Have you always? Can you ever remember not feeling like a girl? You're a very pretty girl, do you know that? Yeah, you are. Does Riley feel sometimes that she's a freak?
Yeah. She has a physical deformity.
She feels.
She has a birth defect. We call it that. I can't think of a worse birth defect as a woman than to have a penis. She talks about the day she'll have a baby. That's not in her future. But she sees herself as
A woman.
A woman, as growing up to be a woman.
10 years ago, the struggle was simply to have Stephanie conceive. It took the Grants 11 attempts at in vitro fertilization and 5 miscarriages before they finally gave birth to fraternal twins, a girl, Allie,
hi, Richie,
and a boy, Richard. So Stephanie and Neil, when you had a boy and a girl, twins, you must have been thrilled.
The perfect family. You have a boy and a girl, you don't need any more.
yay, Allie!
From the beginning, the twins were different.
Allie was extremely, always looking into life.
Come on, Rich.
Richard was clingy and quiet and more passive. I knew he wasn't going to be a masculine, macho little boy.
Wave hi, Rich.
Richard refused to swim topless, always wearing a shirt in the pool. Gentle and meek, he gravitated to pink, not blue.
It started with the cups. But Mommy, I want a pink cup. I want a pink cup. And I'd say, no, that's the girl's cup. Pink is for girls, but I'm a girl. He just stomped his feet, and I want pink.
Richard was jealous of his sister's girl things, especially her clothing.
We were getting dressed, and he wanted to wear a dress. He wanted to be pretty like his sister.
At 2?
At 2. Huh. 2.5. I want a dress. I'm a girl, Mommy. I'm a girl. And I'd say, no, honey, you're a boy. You have a penis. You're a boy. Allie's a girl.
And what happened?
His facial expression would change. He'd get sad, and he just wanted to be pretty like a girl was pretty.
Do you remember how you felt?
I think I was kind of dumbfounded because how someone so early in life could discern for themselves what they wanted to be.
Then an incident in the bathtub convinced the Grants just how seriously confused their son was about his gender identity.
So I left the room, and when I came back, Richard was standing there very innocently with a nail clipper, and he was holding it to himself, and it was closed. It's a cringing thought, and that's exactly what I did. Buddy, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he just looked up at me with these eyes, and he said, Mommy, it doesn't go there.
He was going to cut it off, cut his penis off?
Stephanie. That's at 2.5. In my mind, I knew right there's something going on.
The Grants needed help, so they turned first to their doctor. What did your pediatrician say?
I don't know what to tell you. And I think you have to teach him to be a boy.
You gotta put him on the track, honey.
So the Grants encouraged Richard to play with boy toys and do boy things, but to no avail.
It's a microwave like Mommy's, huh?
Richard even refused to attend his own birthday parties, knowing he would only get boy presents. The worst time was Christmas.
It got more exasperating for him when he looked over and saw his sister's things, the things that he wanted.
So here you are with this little boy rejecting everything male. At what point did you allow him to dress as a girl?
At about 3 years old.
They called it girl time. Richard could dress up in his sister's clothes, but only when his father Neil was out of sight. The secret between mother and son went on for months.
So I took him shopping by himself.
And you bought him
And we bought his own skirt and his own little tank top because that little girl trapped inside was so happy when this would happen, but we knew we had to hide it. And his own pair of Barbie sandals. And we hid them in the back of the closet.
So Neil, when you found out that your wife was dressing your little boy as a girl, what'd you do?
I said I didn't believe in it, and I didn't know where this was going to lead to.
And you didn't want it.
And I didn't know. I did not want it.
Richard's double life put a strain on their marriage. They almost separated. But Stephanie was undeterred. Richard, now 4, was going to school as a boy, but wanted to be a girl full-time. At night, you heard Richard's prayers in the middle of all of this. What was he saying?
He said, Mom, I'm so mad at God. And I said, you are? Why? He said, because God made a mistake. He made me a boy, and I'm not a boy, I'm a girl, Mom. And he says, every night I pray that God gives me a girl body, but when I wake up, I'm still a boy. He says, God won't take back his mistake. He won't make it right.
Neil, what happened when you heard this? I don't want to put you through something that's this difficult.
I need a few minutes. I'm sorry.
Was there a point when Richard got so unhappy that you were afraid that he might do himself harm?
He would say to me, I just want to die. I just want to jump out the window.
Were you afraid he might?
Oh, yeah. We locked the windows and checked the windows on a regular basis. And then at one point, he said to me, Mom, I wish I didn't exist. And I said, honey, you don't want to die. I would be so sad. And he said, no, Mommy. If I died, you would be sad. But if I never existed, you would never know.
This is at 6?
This is at 6 years old.
Was there a point around this time when you thought, maybe I have a little boy who's gay?
I thought possibly that he was a feminine boy. But there's a big difference, I think, between a child saying that I want to be a girl and a child saying that I am a girl.
At home and at school, Richard was having panic attacks.
We had an incident during homework where he had such a panic attack, he turned blue. And the next morning I just went into the principal and I sat in the office and I cried. I explained everything and she looked at me and she said, well, why can't he come to school dressed like a girl? I said, well, how can I do that? He's a boy. I can't send him to school dressed like a girl. And she says, why not?
Finally, the school sent the grants to a gender specialist who diagnosed Richard with gender identity disorder. What did you think, Neil?
I was probably more confused then because I had no idea what that meant.
Did you understand what transgendered meant?
No, I just said, oh my God, we're not making this up. This is real, there's a diagnosis.
That diagnosis was just the beginning of even more heartache. Riley would face hurtful teasing and bullying and the anguish of trying to be accepted for whom he feels he is, a girl.
Some people call me a boy.
And then how do you feel?
Angry.
That's next.
Their children are transgender, but what they've discovered is important for all parents.
Your child is who they are, and you should love them for who they are.
2020 continues after this from our ABC stations. 2020 continues with Barbara Walters.
In 2003, at age 7, Richard Grant's parents allowed him to transition from a boy to a girl. He, now she, pierced her ears, grew her hair out, wore girls' clothing, and took the name Reggie. Her father, Neil, who once rejected her, now took her shopping for dresses.
I saw the look on her face.
Yeah. You understood?
Yes.
Then, to her great relief, Reggie's mother, Stephanie, found an internet support group for transgender children.
There was a small network of moms with these little children.
With the same experience?
With the same, almost like we were telling each other's story.
These were girls into boys and boys into girls?
Yes.
Reggie eventually changed her name legally to Riley, but when she showed up at school in the 3rd grade, wearing a dress, her life became increasingly difficult. She had to use the nurse's bathroom, and the bullies had a field day.
It became a nightmare. It was horrible. She was known as the girl with a dick.
The girl with a dick?
Yes.
And she's still bullied. That's the way things are to this day.
To this day.
Does her sister, Alec, does she get bullied?
She says, Mom, I'm scared if the kids find out they won't be my friends. So there's always a fear, an underlying fear of what if this comes out.
And is Riley scared?
Yes.
Of what?
Riley believes that the only kids who like her are the ones that don't know.
Stephanie says the most difficult time for a transgender child is when they're alone with their body, like the time she pulled back the shower curtain.
And there he is standing there washing his hair with one hand and had a washcloth over his private area with another. He was hiding from himself. He didn't want to see his own body.
I hear that you have a snake. When Riley and I first sat down, she was cautious but talkative, especially about her 4-foot pet snake.
It lives in my room and I sleep with it. Riley!
But when the conversation turned to her gender, a very different child emerged. Riley, when you were very young, what did you want people to know that they didn't know?
I was a girl.
How did the other kids treat you?
The same, except some people call me a boy, but I just tell them to shut up.
And what do they do?
Call me an idiot, and I call them dum-dum.
And when you say that, what do they say?
They say, no, you're a boy.
And then how do you feel?
Angry.
When I sat down with Riley, I had no idea what to expect. Oh, darling. And when she dissolved into tears, I found myself no longer a reporter, but her comforter.
I know how hard it is.
One needs to understand that this is a child on the verge of adolescence, a child who hates her body.
I know. Can we talk about your snake?
Riley is 11. What happens when she enters puberty?
Our plan is to give her the hormone replacement therapy to puberty her body as a girl.
First, Riley will take hormone blockers to essentially stop the testosterone surge in her male body from growing a beard and other masculine characteristics. Then between 14 and 16, she'll start taking estrogen shots to give her body a more feminine appearance. Does Riley understand this?
Riley would want it to start tomorrow. She wants the breast buds that the rest of the girls are getting.
Like her sister, Allie. As we followed the girls, Riley seemed moody, unhappy, and fought a lot with her sister.
Her sister's always been right. Her twin was born with the right body. Her twin's going to get the breasts. She has to hate her sister in order to survive. She has a twin.
Because her sister's everything she wants to be.
If you could help people understand, what would you tell them?
I think that I would tell them that being transgendered is not different from any other ordinary family.
Except it is.
So just the cutest little boy ever.
It's rare that Stephanie allows herself to look at pictures of Riley as a boy. Normally they're all hidden. She only looks at them when her trans daughter is not around. If Riley found them, she would destroy them. You are sitting here now exposing something so deeply personal, so deeply painful. Why?
I want Riley to have a good life. And we want people to understand the way she is.
We have to support her, but we don't walk in her shoes. And people who look at her and who know her will, I hope, realize what it takes for her to be her every single day.
Next, a teenage daughter's shocking letter. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. And then the road to transformation for Jeremy, born Rebecca. There is no going back.
That was probably the darkest of all of the times that we went through.
How do you feel when you look back and see pictures of yourself as a girl? You're a pretty girl.
Thank you. I don't really see that. I just see someone whose eyes aren't really smiling.
On September 19th, 2004, 14-year-old Rebecca Singer wrote a startling letter to her parents, Betsy and Peter. By the end, she was no longer Rebecca, but Jeremy.
Dear Mom and Dad, this is one of those stream of consciousness things that I write in the wee hours of the morning. What am I? I ask myself this all the time. Right now, what I believe myself to be is an FTM, or a female-to-male transsexual. A boy in a girl's body.
Betsy, how did you feel?
Shocked, horrified, bewildered. It was an out-of-body experience.
What I want is for you to understand and let me transition into the boy I really am. Thank you for listening. Love, your son.
After years of struggling silently, Rebecca, now Jeremy, began to transform into a boy almost immediately. He cut his hair short, bought male clothing. He began wearing a binder under his clothes, a lycra vest that painfully flattened his breasts.
It's like an undershirt made out of plastic.
You are wearing a binder today.
Mm-hmm.
Are your breasts very large?
Yes. And you want Cheetos? What kind of Cheetos?
Coming out at a progressive school near Los Angeles was uneventful.
Okay.
As a transgendered male, Jeremy was generally accepted by his classmates. But beneath his clothing, Jeremy was a girl in puberty. Menstruating became unbearable. What did you decide to do about the fact that you were physically a girl?
From the time that I found out what it meant to be transgendered, I knew that there were physical changes that I could make. One of them being taking testosterone, the male hormone, and that would deepen my voice and give me facial hair.
But Jeremy's parents were cautious. He could dress as a boy, but they refused to let him start injecting. Without testosterone, Jeremy felt trapped between genders. Worse, a year after coming out, he fell into a deep depression when he discovered that his mother still hoped for her daughter to return.
That was probably the darkest of all of the times that we went through, the many, many talks that we had. And he said to me, "Mom, you still don't see me as male."
And you said what?
I admitted it. It was true.
That was hard to hear. And the thing is that I don't really want to be seen as trans. I want to be seen as male.
Jeremy, I heard that there was a point in which you cut yourself.
I needed some way to get out this anger that I felt towards myself and towards the world for having done whatever it had done to me. And physically hurting myself helped me to let go of some of that.
What was he cutting?
I don't feel comfortable talking about this. Okay.
For the singers, the threat of losing their child crystallized the urgency Jeremy felt to masculinize his body. Last year, Jeremy, then 16, began injecting testosterone.
Jeremy was a clear-cut case. He came in completely ready. The testosterone was just really the next step for him. Did you change your hair color?
No, not the color.
Dr. Joe Olson specializes in adolescent medicine at Children's Hospital Los Angeles and treats dozens of transgender children like Jeremy. Thanks to hormone therapy, Jeremy now shaves, his voice is deeper, and his body looks more masculine. But what about the other children we've met tonight? What will happen to them?
If you're a biological male, for example, the idea of getting a beard and getting underarm hair and a larger penis, that's terrifying for you.
This is exactly what Riley Grant can expect as a male-to-female transgender, a 10-year-old who is on the cusp of puberty. Experts are divided about when to give hormone therapy, but a growing number believe that early intervention is the best choice. Soon, Riley's doctor will give her hormone blockers to suppress her natural testosterone surge. Then in a few years, she'll start to take estrogen, or what is called a cross hormone.
The estrogen allows them to get breast development, which is irreversible, and it allows redistribution of body fat in the breast and the hips. There's a couple things that we cannot affect, unfortunately. We cannot affect voice pitch in biological males, and we can't affect the Adam's apple, so a lot of people do get surgery to get that shaved down.
But hormone therapy comes with risks. For Riley, taking estrogen increases her chances of getting breast cancer, and cross hormones also could render transgender teenagers sterile. Then there's the question of if and when to have sex reassignment surgery. Eventually, does Riley want to have the penis removed?
Riley would have it done tomorrow.
Tomorrow is further down the road for 6-year-old Jazz Jennings. Her parents also say they would allow their trans daughter to surgically remove her penis, but most doctors will not operate until the age of consent, 18. Although surgery is expensive and not covered by insurance, Jeremy says he hopes to have his breast removed before he goes to college. For now, surgery below the waist to create an artificial penis is not an option, he says.
What do you say to a parent watching who says, is my child gay, feminine, masculine, or transgender?
You have to look at your child and look into their heart and support them and just follow their lead. Because your child is who they are, and you should love them for who they are.
There are no numbers on just how many transgender children exist. We do know that they are rare, but more and more parents have embraced them. In one internet support group alone, there are 400 families. No longer isolated, many are connecting at transgender conferences like this one in Philadelphia.
You stupid homosexual man, woman. What are you doing in this school? You don't belong here.
In workshops, these transgender children share stories of pain and embarrassment from relentless teasing and bullying back home.
Well, she knows about me being transgender, and she knows about the bullying, but she hasn't done anything.
Here, these children are safe to be themselves, but in the outside world, transgender children are often victims of discrimination and hate crimes.
You're both scared
Yes.
of what someone might do to her.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yes. You know, could you read it in the paper? You see it in the media all the time.
It's a mean world.
Perhaps most devastating can be rejection by their own families.
The worst thing you can do to your kid is say, I don't love you because of who you are. That's a horrible, horrible message for your kid, and it's going to lead them down a road of catastrophe, really.
In fact, a study by San Francisco State University confirms that trans children rejected by their families are 4 times as likely to attempt suicide and use illegal drugs, and twice as likely to become HIV infected. But for those accepted by their parents, these risks were dramatically reduced.
You know, I feel bad for parents that can't give that to their children. Some of them just can't put aside their own bigotry or feelings or enough to say, it doesn't matter, I love you if you're gay, lesbian, transgender. Why should it matter? This is your child.
No one can imagine what these special children must go through every day to be who they are. They and their families struggle to simply be accepted. What if one day your child said, I am in the wrong body? Could they accept it? Could you?